They were really sort of handling things in a popcorn nature. Somebody would put in a question and they'd be like, well, let's figure out how to help them do that. Oh, they want to pay it through payroll, or it was just happening in so many different ways.
Hello, and welcome to Scholarship Station. This is your platform to explore the scholarship field. I'm your host, Erika Orsulak from Students First Consulting. Our guest today is Joel Spiess, the Director of Student Scholarships at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. Joel spearheaded centralized coordination of scholarships at the UWM, and he and his team have made tremendous impact in making scholarships across all departments more efficient and more impactful. First, let me remind you that Scholarship Station is a free service connecting members of the scholarship world to resources and ideas about how we can all better serve students. If you have a topic or a particular issue you'd like to hear discussed, please let us know in the comments below. On screen, you'll see my contact info as well as all of our handles at all of the places. Today, we are talking about the centralization of institutional scholarships with the amazing Joel Spiess, who is the Director of Student Scholarships at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. Hi, Joel.
Good morning. How are you?
Hey, great. I'm so happy to have you here.
Likewise, I'm happy to be here.
I want to dig into centralizing scholarships at institutions. You have had a ton of success with what you have described as centralized coordination of scholarships. Tell me what that looks like at the university.
Sure. So centralization of coordination. We're not centralizing. We're not taking resources away from our partners in the schools and colleges and awarding units across our campus. But what our institution identified is there was a great need to have better coordination of scholarship function, which meant available dollars were getting spent on students annually, critically important. Processes and procedures were in place to make the most of technology and the staffing resources that we have. And there was clear policy, clear procedure around how we pay students, the method through which we pay scholarships, and ultimately timelines for awarding and things of that nature. So my team in the Central Office of Student Scholarships is just a mighty team of 4. But we set forth all of the policy, the technical requirements, and all of those other pieces I mentioned that all of our awarding units must follow. So they maintain the awarding autonomy. They're still reviewing the applicants and they're still selecting the recipients, but they have to do so according to our policies, our technology, our procedures, et cetera. And in turn, we offer centralized assessment, centralized support, marketing and communications to the student populations, and we're able to provide a lot of assistance in that regard, and that has served our campus and our students and our employees very, very well.
Joel, so how'd you get there? Were there big problems that you or others at the university saw that you needed a solution to?
Sure. So from 2015 to 2020, we had a major capital campaign. Our foundation opened hundreds of new scholarship funds. And sort of heading into the pandemic, when university leaders were looking at the intended outcomes of the campaign, they were seeing there wasn't a lot of active spending of those new accounts. And they were hearing a lot of concerns and questions from different areas of the campus about whether or not we were making the best use of our resources. So our chancellor formed the Scholarship Oversight Administration Council, which was really a conglomeration of partners from across campus, our foundation, our CFO's office, our chief enrollment officer, and many members of the schools and colleges who came together to sort of analyze the problem, identify where there were strengths and wins happening across the university, and where there were some pitfalls or maybe some stumbling blocks that we needed to shore up. And so that group came together and identified a series of 6 recommendations, the first of which was that the university should hire a director of student scholarships with the authority and autonomy to sort of tell people what to do and set forth some rules and regulations and hold the units I should say, accountable for living up to those standards. So that was really the impetus that brought about my hire. And on my first day, my supervisor said, here are the 5 other recommendations from that committee. We look forward to seeing what you do. And so that was 4 years ago now, almost 5. But it was a great moment, I think, in the university sort of evolution around philanthropy and supporting students through scholarships.
So you were handed a pretty big task. Can you talk about what implementation looked like for you over the last 4 to 5 years? I know you've been really busy.
Sure. So I inherited the team that I have today from our financial aid office. They were sort of separated and sort of given to me, and we created the new independent department, the Office of Student Scholarships. So I'm a peer to the director of financial aid. And so first it was getting to know that team and understanding how they had been working with the different schools, colleges, and units across campus. So they are critically important to this work, and being a small team do amazing things. But I also got to know each one of the scholarship coordinators in the schools and colleges. I did interviews with each of them. So through those interviews, I really got to establish some relationship building, and got a greater understanding of each unit's portfolio and how much of that person's time scholarship work takes, because in most cases, they're not a full-time scholarship coordinator. They're also an assistant dean or an academic advisor, or in some cases, maybe a faculty member, that have a lot of other responsibilities. So learning from the units about what was going well, and areas that we could improve upon, I was able to identify some themes and some quick goals of like, if we could move the needle on these 2 things, we would win over 8 or 10 of the 14 units. And that's really what we set out to do. So we garnered some good support right out of the gate in regards to that. And then as I went through my first year, it was really understanding when folks were doing what and why, and asking questions. So our 2 largest units after our central office, OSS, the Office of Student Scholarships, we have about 2/3 of the university's scholarship dollars that we directly administer. And then the remaining third is split between those school and college units. So together as a whole, they make up a very large portion of our university's overall portfolio. So our 2 biggest units, our College of Business and our College of Letters and Science, they were quick partners with me. And I would often workshop ideas with those units and say, this is what I think we need to do, or this is the direction I think we need to head. Poke some holes in my theories, or give me feedback about what's a non-starter for you. And it helped me sort of workshop some things before bringing them to the whole group, so that we could put our best foot forward. And then in those meetings, they could also vocalize support and say, this will really work for the College of Business for these reasons. And as just some of the biggest players in the space, that was influential with the other units as well.
I heard, of course, quick wins, that low-hanging fruit. I heard building thoughtful partnerships, testing things maybe at a small scale to start, see how things roll out. So it sounds like you really had, you really took some great approaches to starting small and scaling this to make sure that it was something that worked well for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. And 2 things I'll mention is one would be a centralized scholarship, getting everyone to award on the same timeline. That is really our institution strategy of getting those awards out early enough that they're impactful to the student and to the family, so they have enough time to plan. So for our units, many folks were awarding scholarships in August, right before the start of the fall term, which we would define more as a prize approach, not necessarily a strategic approach for student recruitment or student retention. So we've shifted that significantly. And along the way, through our conversations or through our decisions as a campus, we have really started to document everything in what we've termed our university scholarship policies.
I love it. I love a good scholarship policy. I love that it can grow and change, it sounds like, which is
Yep.
terrific. Scholarships have a bad rap as difficult for administrators. Do you want to talk about how this has changed things for those your team members who day to day are managing those hundreds and hundreds of opportunities around the campus?
I think first and foremost, I think it's given them a community of practice. So our scholarship coordinators across campus, we pull them together in a monthly meeting that we call the Scholarship Administrators Work Group. And so peer relationships have formed, and it also gives us a chance to be on the stage and share information directly with them. So certainly they will reach out to us with questions or scenarios, but more often we've heard that they're actually reaching out to one another. So the scholarship coordinator in the School of the Arts will call the scholarship coordinator in the School of Architecture and say, here's my situation, what would you do? Which we love because as a public institution, our resources, of course, are stretched. So knowing that we've developed those relationships and having a community for scholarship coordinators is really, really wonderful. I think the other thing that our changes have meant, aligning our timeline, means everyone's doing the same things at the same time. And it also means everyone's sort of in like low involvement mode at the same time, right? So we know on our campus, scholarship applications are due February 1. February is a busy month for all of our scholarship coordinators, but October isn't. So we know that, and everybody should be kind of moving in that same speed, which is great. You know, my staff, prior to forming the Office of Student Scholarships, they were really sort of handling things in a popcorn nature. Somebody would put in a question and they'd be like, well, let's figure out how to help them do that. Oh, they want to pay it through payroll, or oh, they want to do a direct payment to the individual, but this person wants to disperse it through the student information system. It was just happening in so many different ways. Our ability to provide support is much faster and much more streamlined because of the work that we've done to centralize coordination.
Thank you for joining us at Scholarship Station. If you find this episode useful, inspiring, helpful, or motivational, please subscribe, like, and maybe even leave us a review. We love having you with us. Tell me about impacts on the university as a whole. And then, of course, we're always thinking about students. What has this meant for them?
Let's start with students. Students first, of course.
Yeah.
Our enrollment has seen very positive gains. So on the recruitment side, for the fall of 23, we were up 3.3% in incoming first year students. Scholarships aren't the sole reason for that, but we believe that our coordinated strategy for awarding incoming students played a significant role. Last fall in 2024, incoming student enrollment was up 9.8%. And as a tuition-driven institution, you know, that's our primary source of revenue in an environment of declining state support for higher education. That's more important than ever. So on the enrollment side, we've seen very positive gains. On the returning student side, the retention side, we've heard anecdotally from students great feedback about appreciating having their scholarship offers earlier in the spring so that they have multiple months to plan for, oh, I definitely need a job for summer and I definitely need to be working part-time. Or maybe in some cases it's the opposite because of the support that they've received. And we also know some of our just-in-time awards for student retention grants, we call them in our campus, or emergency grants. Those have had really positive results as well. Our retention grants, we see that 82% of recipients that we award a just-in-time scholarship to help them pay down their balance so that they can register for the next term. We have an 82% persistence in graduation rate, which is great. And our emergency grant recipients are even higher at 92% of recipients persisting or graduating the following term. So we've seen some great numbers on the student side that have certainly been very rewarding as we've done a lot of work to bring folks in line and just further underscore, if we all act in one fell swoop, look at the impacts we can have on students. Some other quick student figures before we talk about impacts to the university. Unique students awarded is up 27%. So we have awarded 27% more students than we were in the prior reporting year, which is really, really great. And since my arrival, dollars dispersed to students has been up 40%. So it was 20 million when I started in overall scholarships for our university. Last year, we closed at 28.3 million. So the amount of dollars flowing to students is significantly higher, and that's really what we're here for and what we're all about. And from an administrative perspective, we've never had a closer relationship, not only with advancement, but also our finance team. So working together to look at what percentage of our scholarships are funded by philanthropic dollars and what percentage of our scholarships are funded on institutional revenue, and where might we play with that balance. If we can increase dollars on the philanthropic side, we can offset institutional costs related to scholarships, which then means more of our limited resources are going to academic programs and departments.
I was getting goosebumps, Joel, especially when you were talking about students. I mean, the outcomes you're having for students are just remarkable. And you've obviously, the institution has a model that is worth any college or university taking a closer look at. And to that end, I know you talk with a lot of other institutions. What kind of tips do you give to other organizations that want to have that excellent impact, of course, on their teams and the institution as a whole, but especially students?
Sure. Yeah. When I started this work in 2021, there weren't a lot of folks like me, and I was sort of desperate to talk with people. So I'm always happy to connect and share with others about what we're doing and what's worked for us and maybe what hasn't. I guess when I think of the number one things that have enabled this to be possible for us, first and foremost, and the number one thing I recommend to colleagues across the country is you need institutional leadership support. So you need a dedicated champion that's doing the work, like me, a director of scholarships, or in many cases, it might be the director of financial aid at the institution. You need that champion that's going to be the authority and sort of say, here's how we're driving. But having someone higher on the organizational chart, whether it's the chancellor or president, the provost, another senior leader that is willing to say, you have to listen to them is critically important. It served us very well. There were several memos that were issued by the chancellor before my hire, and then with my support by our provost's office after my arrival, saying, we've established this office, we've vested them with this authority, we need you all to come along. The other thing that I talk a lot about is really critically owning your scholarship platform and understanding the ins and outs of it. With our system, my team, we often talk about how we are the power users. Early on, I said, if there's one thing I'd like to be remembered for, it's that I turned on every single bell and whistle in the system to make it function at its highest capacity. And I truly feel like we're doing that, but that has taken a lot of effort and a lot of focus and energy. And then I would say the two things I've touched on already a little bit is one, that community of practice. So pulling together scholarship coordinators on a regular basis. Maybe it's not a monthly meeting, maybe it's a quarterly meeting or a biannual meeting, but bringing them together so they know who each other are and hear each other's questions or each other's feedback for us has served us very, very well. And the last piece that, again, that I encourage folks to think about is, how are you documenting the decisions your campus makes around policies and holding folks accountable? So I always start whenever I have a series of Monday morning reports that I run that show me like what happened in our scholarship system last week. And when I see something that's amiss or just not jiving with our policies, I'll reach out to the coordinator and explain my observation and say, this is our policy. Let's start by you helping me understand what you were trying to do or sort of what the impetus was. And then we kind of go from there. And in many cases, they have very good reasons. And we're just going to shift them in a direction that brings us closer in alignment while still, affording the autonomy, of course.
It's excellent to hear that the institutions are supportive. Like you said, they'd stood up your position, but it's just others absolutely should see you as a model. So I'm so glad that you were able to share all of this with me today. And Joel, I've got one more fun one for you. Yesterday in our team meeting, we had this icebreaker, and it was, so if you weren't in scholarships and money wasn't an issue, you got all the scholarships you needed to go back to school if that required that, what would you be?
Oh, that's a great question. This is so different from my day to day. I love maps. I really like maps, and I
Oh.
think I would be a cartographer. the study of maps and making maps. And, there's something about maps that I just find beautiful. Maps of the world, maps of different countries, colors, shapes, topography. There's so many different varieties of them. And the artistry behind it, but also the science behind it just sort of enthralls me.
I love it. That's wonderful. Oh my gosh, how cool. It was great to learn that about you too. Well, Joel, thanks so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me. The opportunity to share has just been great. And I've appreciated the time with you.